Round of beers for my Marks Dwarves chat, because they're going to need a pint after this, I think. As we prepare to cover more of this mountain in Viscera. Bolts begin flying. Flying copper bolt strikes the goblin pikeman in the lower body, but it is deflected by the iron breastplate. Steel bolt strikes the goblin pikeman in the upper body, tearing the muscle and tearing the left lung. Through the iron breastplate, the goblin is having trouble breathing. Broken, begone fear. This leaves me shaken. Copper bolt strikes the goblin in the throat, bruising the throat through the iron mail shirt. The flying copper bolt strikes the goblin pikeman in the lower arm, but the attack was deflected. The wall of bolts gets loosed. Goblin in the back gets hit by a silver bolt in the neck. So right now, Bubblehead is thirsty and is currently fighting with this dwarf, but the goblin, I don't think has any ability to hold things, so isn't a huge threat currently. The dwarf is dueling with it, and we're shooting point blank at them. The rest of the dwarven military comes running up. It appears that Too Light is running out to go deal with these dwarven traitors, Zalak, Ransackor. The dwarf is up front. He is a novice surgeon. No familial relationships. More bolts are flying. Fighting begins to happen on the Golden Bridge. Too Light here is hungry, thirsty, tired, winded, and heavy bleeding because Too Light got scratched by the axe dwarf, which is not good for your future life prospects. Too Light, hang in there, dwarf. No bleeding, please. Too Light, unfortunately, didn't make it because of Tun's martial trance. So the scary thing about fighting dwarves are the only ones that can actually go into martial trances, which actually makes dwarves a significantly harder thing to fight than goblins. Too Light has been found dead due to the dwarves' martial trance. Dwarf is no longer in a martial trance and is now retreating. The most recent bolt hit him in the upper body, but it was deflected by his iron breastplate. Silver bolt hit him in the lower leg, but it was deflected by his copper high boot. Yeah, we need better bolts. He's dropped his shield, though. Seriously injured. Goblin Olungo is running forward, and the dwarves see this and take it as an opportunity to charge forward. This one isn't mine, this is theirs. Same with this goblin who's bleeding heavily. This dwarf, Crampton King, is one of my best dwarves who hopefully isn't going to fly off the edge. It's tussling with a goblin, or the militia captain bashed the goblin. The goblin pikeman charges at the militia captain and collides with the militia captain, and together they tumble forward. They continue falling. So easily broken. Begone fear. Goblin is stunned. Crampton King is collided with the ground. It appears that the militia captain's lower body takes the full force of the impact, but it was deflected by their steel greaves. Their upper left leg takes the full force of the impact, but it was deflected by the steel greaves. The militia captain's upper right arm takes the full force of the impact, but it was deflected by the captain's steel shirt. The militia captain's left hand takes the full force of the impact, but it was bruising the muscle through the arm, whereas our goblin here is bleeding. Move a few turns forward. The militia captain stands up. So for reference, that was 13 Z levels. The militia captain stands up, still stunned, and is probably fighting with the goblin. The militia captain bashes the goblin pikeman in the left hand with her bismuth bronze mace, and the injured part is crushed. An artery has been opened by the attack, and the force twists the left wrist. The militia captain then bashes the goblin pikeman in the right foot with her bismuth bronze mace, fracturing the bone. Oh, looks like we got a second one. Celistaris is at the bottom now, too, who didn't do as hot, apparently, on the way down, but also isn't dead yet. Okay, two of them fell, and neither of them are dead. That's some random goblin's leg. Holy Spokes is down here now. All right, well, we got a party down here. Well, that's good. This goblin's still alive somehow. They have now killed that goblin. I'm probably going to start running back up. There's an arm in midair. If I go back up to the upper layers, let's see. Well, there's 2 lights body, so that's okay. There's a big crowd of dwarves there. These 2 dwarves back here are probably the ones that are causing them to fall because they're getting bolts fired at them. Let's just wait and see what happens, which means those ones down at the bottom are probably like routing around the back. These dwarves are continuing to slowly move forward, except the one on the right, I think, is injured. Nope, not injured. So I have a feeling these guys down here are going to turn around and go fight, because Crampton is fine and Holy Spokes is fine, and they're still being told to station. So Celistaris down here is seriously injured, but hopefully won't die. Assuming your lungs aren't crushed, slight pain, winded. Okay, what's the issue? Requires a crutch. Okay, so like a broken leg. Right foot is mangled. Okay, that's fixable. We can fix that. This dwarf over here is running around the side, back around to the back of the enemy siege. And let's see if Crampton King can be the absolute hero that this dwarf dreams of being. Running up behind the enemy lines, fighting with multiple dwarves, dwarven traders, alongside of Holy Spokes here. So it's Crampton King and Holy Spokes. Absolute no issue so far. First series of goblins have now passed. Copper Stoker of Divine, they say. I believe it. They now turn around and kill another dwarf who is behind them, also of goblin variety. That fight ends, and well, it seems like the enemies of us here have like caused themselves much grief, are flying towards where we were stationed, colliding with the goblins, or the goblin-aligned dwarves from behind. While there is still plenty on the drawbridge, what really are they to do? Holy Spokes here is in a martial trance, stabbing a mace dwarf in the right upper leg with her steel short sword, fracturing the bone and shattering the right hip. And it appears that Nodokas is depressed. That's fine. That's kind of rad. Whereas the last thing that Crampton King did was bashing a sword dwarf in the head with her steel mace, jamming the skull through the brain. So that brings their kills up to 8 and 9. And Holy Spokes down here has an additional 2 and 9. Holy Spokes is up first and is in a martial trance. Crampton King is directly behind, dueling with the remaining dwarves and goblins from the goblin siege. The goblins are trapped on the bridge. There really isn't much left for them to do. We're going to bring up the last few dwarven squads as backup, who are currently sitting here in waiting, and they book it forward. The remainder of the goblins are now completely trapped on the bridge between my dwarves and, well, my militia captain and Holy Spokes here, the sword master. The militia captain is dodging through the bits and pieces of remaining viscera that is the goblins, and the siege is vanquished. I think that is one of the coolest fights I've ever seen. Like, let's think about that for a second. Dueling, goblin charges Crampton King falls, lands down here, recovers, beats the shit out of the goblin that fell down. Holy Spokes comes down as well as Celistaris. They kill that goblin and then charge up from behind and finish them off. Like, that is just rad. That is awesome. This game is so cool. Like, seriously, that is... Mwah.